and welcome to another episode of Cloud with Chris. You are with me, Chris Reddington, and here we talk about all things cloud. Now, we've got a great episode here today. We've got a topic which I'm sure is near very many people's hearts who are tuning in, listening in to this episode. So if you like what you're seeing, if you like the content, you know what to do. Please drop a share, drop a like, and of course, get involved in the chat as well, because we'd love to hear your feedback, your comments as well. But there's not much more for us to do here other than introduce our brilliant guest that we've got on today. So here she is. It's Jonah. Hey, Jonah.
Hi, Chris. It's so great to be here today and be part of your show.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for joining. Glad to have you here. And we were talking just before going live here, actually, that I think the last time we kind of interacted or saw each other was back last year at DevRel, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I did. I was that time I was your audience, watching you live, sharing about Azure Static Web Apps, and it was a great interactive sessions with our friends in the community in Norway.
Awesome. No, and this is the thing I love is this big tech community we're a part of is, kind of people, and everyone is kind of learning and helping each other. It's a great place to be.
Yes, it is. And I'm glad that we could communicate and connect in the community this way remotely, despite what's going on around this world. So we're thinking positive.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. So I guess that in terms of who you are and introducing today's topic, I guess. So who are you, Jonah, for folks who may not know you?
Yes, I'm I actually have it in my presentation, but yes, I have it, but I'm yes. So yes, and yes, I have it. And so today I'm gonna be sharing to our friends and audience about my my cloud migration story as a developer, and as a background, not to repeat myself as a developer.
Sure.
Yes, I'm Jonah Andersson. I'm a Microsoft MVP for Azure. And on my day job, I work as a software engineer, full stack developer in C#.net. So I love coding. And I work as at a consulting company called Forefront Consulting here in Sweden. And I also love sharing knowledge, especially with Azure technologies that I love, and as a Microsoft technical trainer. And I also founded Azure User Group Sweden, a user group in my area locally. And I'm organizing biweekly events for that user group. And also in my free time, I like sharing and inspiring others by being a mentor. And also, I am writing a book about Azure, as you can see there, learning Microsoft Azure, which I think in a few weeks, in the past, I think 2 weeks ago, they released the raw and unedited version of that book. So
excellent.
If you're interested to check it out and give feedback, feel free to scan the QR code on this one.
Perfect. There we go, folks. You've got your action there. We'll leave that. In fact, we'll just put that full screen just so it's easier for you to go and scan that QR code, take a look and get involved.
And I see also there, you see Cloud Champion, the Cloud family. Last year, I was selected as one of the champions of Cloud family. And I'm sure you're familiar with our family.
Absolutely.
Our friends. Yes.
Absolutely. Lots of great faces in the community who I'm sure are probably somewhere in the chat or watching right now as well. So do say hello if you are.
Yes. Hi to my Cloud family. Thank you for tuning in.
There we go.
Yes.
Awesome. But no, I think lots of great different areas that you're involved in, that software engineer background, the user group side, tech mentor. I see some great updates on LinkedIn, by the way, as well. So kudos to all the work you're doing there. But then also writing a book. Yes. Where'd you fit it all in?
Yeah, I got that question. And I think it's because I wish I had more time, or I wish I could clone myself.
Yep.
But I think it's because my passion for sharing knowledge and doing community work is what drives me and gives me energy. So
Hmm.
that's why I keep it going. But I also listen to advice of family and friends to keep it lagom. Lagom is the Swedish word for just enough, not too much,
Okay.
not too little, just enough.
Lagom.
So I'm trying to
Okay.
have that balance.
Like
Yes.
that. There we go. I'm going to take that as my mantra now. Lagom. Just enough and just the right amount. There we go.
Yes, that's
Oh,
right.
good. So I guess
Yes.
then today's topic, things to consider before you're migrating old .NET applications to the cloud, and I think a bit around your journey and
Mm.
going from some of those older .NET applications to Azure as well. So where's the best place for us to start here, Jonah?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have prepared a few presentation
Sure.
slides actually. Let me just show it to you. So today, just briefly, just a few PowerPoint slides. I prepared a bit about in short, my real life cloud migration journey
Mm.
and why it turned into a fiasco. It's not so common actually that we shared our migration journeys. Usually it's like success stories that it went
Right.
well, but for me it's kind of unique because it didn't make it to the production. That's why I describe it as a fiasco.
Ah,
But it's worth sharing things that didn't went well because that's
mhm.
how we learn as well in our
Absolutely.
future journey. So
Absolutely.
I will share about what I've learned and how we can fix it using, for example, Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework, and there's also another tool in Azure called Azure Migrate,
Mhm.
just as an introduction. So feel
Awesome.
free to share also your input on this about cloud migration, Chris, if you have
Abs-
any. Yes, so
shall do.
we can try to make it interactive and
Ab-
share and learn from each
absolutely.
other.
Just to say, I love the word fiasco. We do not hear it enough in our day-to-day vocabulary. So that already I love.
Yes, that's right. That's great. Yes. So I want to start by this. Have you seen this picture before?
I have, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I first encountered this photo when I was studying agile system development. So just a bit of history about my background. I'm originally from the Philippines. I grew up in the Philippines and I moved to Sweden 10, 11 years ago. And after studying computer science, I also studied agile system development in .NET and also Java development. And the first time I saw this picture was when I studied agile development. And one of the things, this is one of my favorite part of my studies that then, because at that time you see that it's just a series of drawings that you see where, for example, the customer explained that they want a stair on the tree, and then the consultant wanted a sofa hanging on the tree, but then the customer is getting the high rocketed roller coaster bills, and then we developers developed it a different way. And at that time, when I was a student, I couldn't understand it so well. I didn't get a grip of it. But after working as a software developer for about 7, 8 years now, I kind of like relate to the reality of the projects, of how really software development projects really works, and it is a good picture. Do
Mm.
you have any input in this, Chris? I mean, your experience.
Just to say, can relate. Can relate to the different stages. And this one does always make me smile, looking at the different options that we have on the screen and the different kind of
Yes.
scenarios, because it's true, right? And I'm sure everyone listening in and watching can kind of look at this and probably map different stages, maybe not to the same project, but different projects they've been involved with. And I
Yes.
think this is
That's
reality, isn't it? It's not always perfect as much as we'd like to see, and that's okay, because
yes.
that is life.
That's how we learn as well. So I introduced this picture because that's how the project I had went. Actually, let me just go ahead to this one here. So I was in a project, cloud migration project, in which I was the superwoman responsible to lift the application to the cloud. So I was the only developer in that project, and I was the only one who could do Azure back then. So it was pretty proactive step that I had to move that application to the cloud.
Mhm.
So the project that I was involved was this one. So we had an application that was an on-premises. As you can see, there's like uh, the database server, web servers are in the pretty old dinosaur version, which is the Windows 2008 R2, and it was a monolithic architecture with ASP.NET 4.7 and some old Microsoft SQL Server. And the purpose of that project was we wanted to modernize it and move it to the cloud, and we chose Azure as a platform. And for example, we had SQL Server. So we decided maybe we could transition it and upgrade it to Power BI and Microsoft SQL to Azure SQL and web apps instead of the normal .NET apps. So that's the mission that I had then.
Mm,
Yes. Have you
gotcha.
been in a migration project before, Chris?
Many,
Or
many,
involved?
many different
Yes.
ones. And it's interesting, like just seeing some of the symbols you've got on there, like ASP.NET 4.7. I've seen examples where people are doing that kind of lift and shift to the same version, just going from server to server. I've seen some people trying to do server to PaaS, like an app service, for example. I've
Mhm.
seen some people be really ambitious and try and do the .NET 4.7 to .NET Core rewrite as well as changing and going to PaaS and things like that. Like, yeah, it's really interesting to see the different combinations of things people
Yes.
try.
And I think you will be interested to see the coming
Okay,
photo. I mean, presentation, because I think you will be surprised how superwoman I was, and then like the
here we
term
go. I'm looking
fiasco.
forward to this.
Yes. So yeah, as you know, this is from the Microsoft documentation that we know. I can maybe you have seen this before. So this is like the guide or roadmap for like migrating existing .NET application to the cloud and its maturity models. I mean, yes, that's right. So there's an option to migrate and rehost, and then you have the option to modernize.
Mhm.
Not so much code changes, and you can also like architected to for the cloud, like a whole new code. So that was I was aware of that at that time. So but we tried it all, just like what you said, there are different scenarios of that. So first we tried to do the lift and shift option, in which we tried to, as much as possible, not make any changes and move it to like an Azure infrastructure as a service or Azure VMs. But unfortunately, our organization or our client thought that it was expensive to do infrastructure as a service alternative, and that didn't work. So we did the second option, which is the refactor and rehost, in which we did changes in the version of the .NET framework in the project, in the solution, that it will be like upgradable to at least 4.8, I think, for that time for web apps, and then also rewrite as much as we can. But because of uh, technical depth
Mhm.
in that project, because the that project was not well documented. It's like a 15-year-old .NET legacy application, in which there were different developers that coded in it, all kinds of implementations, not so clean code, and no documentation. And I was the one that was maintaining the production and at the same time upgrading it. And I had like a colleague that kind of like I can ask if I need some exchange, if I need to exchange ideas. But otherwise, it was me that did all the hands on, and it was tough. So at the end, we decided to start from scratch. So I did the date redesigned the data models of the database, and also started with new identity in .NET Core. So whole new platform as new solution, no scrappy code, and it worked. So that worked. So
Excellent.
after all the tries,
And I
yes,
think this is it, isn't it? Is there's not a one size fits all approach to this, I think is probably the key message at this point, isn't it? I think is that there are different options, and
mm,
depending on those requirements that you have as an organization and what the business can invest, because you tried all the options, probably
yes,
because the team were willing and able to put the needed investment behind it. But sometimes, for whatever reason, like legacy applications, for example,
yes,
people don't want to modernize. Maybe they're going to be end of life sometime soon or something like that.
yes,
So
yeah,
just lift and shift, or don't even migrate it in some cases.
yeah,
But yeah, I guess in
yeah.
this scenario, it worked out well.
Yes, after all the first try, the lift and shift, because I mean, just like what you said, the first primary reason why there was a initial plan to migrate was because of the end of life of that Windows 2008 R2 server.
Hmm.
So that was like the first purpose. But then everything in that server and the code base were very old. So it doesn't even fit
Yep.
in the infrastructure as a service model for Azure VMs. But it did work when we started it new as new. If we all knew that, then we could have started from scratch. But took it takes a lot of resources, developers, and time to start from scratch. So yeah, I think we or I tried to do my best because it was like I leading it and I working in it. But there's a reason for that as well. So there was a stop in the project actually. So it worked when we modernized it and started building the application as new. But there was a stop on that project. Not it's because the clients or those that are working in that system, they didn't want to invest more time and resources and even money that I work on that migration project. So unfortunately, that got stopped after several months of my work. So that was actually that was my fiasco in a way
Mm.
that it's too bad that when it started working well, we found the right way, then it was stopped by the organization that we give up.
Yep.
And I'm the super one. I'm still willing to fly up there. But I need help. I need like marvels with
uh,
me.
maybe I'll come to it in a sec, but what was it that kind of made them stop? Was it the fact that they thought it would be easier than it was? Was it the fact that they wanted to see that kind of transformation quicker and it wasn't happening? Like, what was it in particular that made them do
Yeah,
that?
I think it's a combination of both, that they wanted this result right away, but at the same time, the entire organization is not cloud ready.
Yep.
Even the clients, they like, for example, one of the reasons the clients doesn't want to invest that I spend like months in upgrading this project, it's because they need me, of course, to maintain the existing system in production, and I'm the only developer that does that. But at the same time, they're also lack the cloud knowledge about Azure, for example. They think that if they move their data to the cloud, it's dangerous. In Europe,
Yep.
we have the GDPR, and that client that's using the system, it's a sustainability system, and it's used by some, like, by a few governments, so they were kind of like not ready back
Gotcha.
then. But if my because I was a consultant and developer, but if my IT consulting company back then, it was a long time ago, back then, educated the client that, hey, the cloud is good, you gain this and that, and there are advantages and disadvantages, I think it would be a win-win. But that's too bad that it's kind of like got stopped. But it's not, it's something that I was out of my control as a developer.
Yep.
But maybe I described it as a fiasco, the entire project. But I think I did my best actually, and I learned from it.
Hmm.
That's why I'm talking in front of you, in
Absolutely.
front of our friends right now, and share about it, because it's very important. And And one of the reasons I put a stop there, because of that project, I actually quit my job there because of the bad project management in that organization.
Gotcha.
So yes,
Makes
yes.
sense. But it's interesting. I think there's also something else that we can maybe pull out of that as well.
Mm,
Around, you mentioned about the legacy project being, it's all old code, it's on old technology, but I think there's still things for those legacy projects that we can do to help ourselves as well. And even if we don't do them on the legacy projects, thinking of the new projects that we make that will one day be legacy, um, is all of those good practices that we think about these days, like
yes,
documentation, for example, like having
yes.
those DevOps practices and measuring that technical debt and paying
Mm,
that down over time rather than leaving it to accumulate. Yes, it's harder when we haven't done it, but this is exactly why we have kind of DevOps principles, isn't it? So I think it's
yes.
a good
And
reminder for folks.
this is also the reality, just like that's why I started my presentation with that image with the requirements and how it is, how a project really works, because that's how it really is. I'm sitting in a new system now. There are still challenges in our
Hmm.
software development projects right now. So every day as a developer, I mean, this is what I do every day. I do fix bugs, and at the same time I create features for existing systems. But sometimes we put a lot of new features in our systems that we forget to take care of our bugs, our technical
Uh-huh.
depths. And as time goes up in the future, technology rise again, and our apps are still there.
Right. No, I'm
Yes.
with you. Like even on my site, cloudwithchris.com, like one of the things I've recently done is taken the theme that I built for the site and open sourced it. And it's fair to say that I wrote the code for my site when it was just my site in a way that no one's ever going to see it. It's okay, it will do. But there were large parts I had to rewrite and large parts that I had to just change because it was in a state that if anyone wants to contribute from an open source perspective or use it and edit and make changes, it just wasn't in that place. So yeah, sometimes it's not the most sexy or attractive or fun thing to do, but it is needed to do
Yes.
the right thing.
Yes. So that's the reason why it's really important with cloud education, like being aware of what we're going to. It's not just about the technical side. We developers keep continually learning about this
Hmm.
cool technology stuff, but we also have this like what do you call it, responsibility to advocate also to our
Yes.
clients, to the business side, and learn to say no also. That's, hey, I want this feature, can you do this
Hmm.
for me as soon as possible? But we have the responsibility as developers or software experts to say no, and direct our business to the right path, that this you should choose because it's more sustainable in the future, technically wise and functional wise. And I
Right.
think cloud
Yep.
computing, moving to cloud, is a win-win situation for all of us, developers, business, and DevOps. Everything makes our lives easier. That's what I believe.
For sure. No, and I completely agree. I can't remember the exact wording you said, but to paraphrase, uh, this fact that we almost have a responsibility as developers and engineers to highlight those issues, right? Because the people in the business do what they do best, which is solving those business problems, understanding their business, that technology layer. Sometimes I think as a developer, speaking for myself anyway, can
Mm,
sometimes think, oh, I'm just going to focus on the technology, that figuring out how it applies to the business problem is their problem, is fine, I won't worry about that. But actually, we need to look at both, don't we? We need to look at the technology,
yes.
how it maps to the business problem, but more importantly, what we're doing with the technology that could create problems for the business later. Uh,
Yes.
really important.
I agree. So I had actually lessons learned here, like top five. Actually, I
Mm,
learned a lot, but so I come up with top five things that are important to think about when you're planning to migrate existing apps, especially old legacy apps, to the cloud, regardless if it's Azure or any cloud platform, is to it's important to define our cloud migration strategy. And if you have a technical debt, fix it first. Otherwise, you will have to pay the interest later on. And also, you have to also take care of the data. The data, if you have duplicate data in your big database, old one that's like a dummy test data, and you're gonna move it to Azure SQL or Cosmos DB, it's just gonna be like a wasted memory and junk in your database in the cloud. So it's good to handle that as well. And cloud readiness is important, and prepare your migration team, heroes to move that to the cloud. And for my case, I was the only superwoman. I could have like Hulk, or the or the other superheroes with me. And of course, getting help from expert and cloud providers. What's your input in this, Chris?
I love a small little line that you said in that interest accruing. And I've
Yes.
never thought about it from this perspective, but actually, it is called technical debt for a reason, right? And that idea
Yes.
about interest accruing, there's that quote that goes around apparently that Albert Einstein said. I don't think he really did, but compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. And
Yeah.
that's true here, right? Because you accrue some debt from your legacy code perspective. You add more, it becomes a bigger and bigger and bigger problem. And that's why in those legacy scenarios, it's because we haven't really managed that technical debt, and suddenly it's a really problematic thing to go and move. So
Yes.
I love analogies. So I like what you said.
That's great. I'm a
Yeah, I think
developer. I'm a developer that reflects a lot about like what I learned
uh-huh,
from what I do and mistakes I did. So good that you learned, or
and
you
that's
you find it
important.
inspiring.
It's important because that's how we learn and grow. And we've acknowledged we all make mistakes. We're all human. Uh, to make mistakes, I guess, is to be human, and showing that growth mindset. Obviously, a big part of Microsoft is that kind of growth mindset piece, but being able to show that and learn from that is important.
Yes.
Yeah, I I think these are some great different points here. Again, the cloud migration strategy and defining that up front. What's that
Hmm.
line? Failing to plan, planning to fail. I think is key. Are you
Yes.
going to go and do a lift and shift and modernize? If you're going to go and modernize or do a lift and shift, what are the prerequisites for that? What do you need to put in place to
Hmm.
enable that to be successful? Um, there's there's lots of different considerations when you start thinking about it that way.
Yes, I
And
agree.
again, the last point as well, get help from expert and cloud providers. Kind of with the cloud readiness is important as well.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Readiness is important. That's why you got people like us who are such advocates in the community and fans wanting to share content and knowledge like this.
Yes.
But there's an amazing partner community out there. There's an amazing set of programs from companies like Microsoft and obviously other cloud providers like AWS and Google, etc. as well, with content out there to go and learn their platforms as well. But when you think of like Microsoft Learn as an example, which content there is on there
Yes.
to go and learn, um, plenty out there, plenty out there.
Yes, yeah, that's right. That's my dog barking. So it's saying hi to all my friends. Yes,
There we
yes.
go.
Yes, yes.
We
But
are fat dogs on the channel.
yes, that's great. Do you have dogs, dog or pets, Chris?
No,
No,
unfortunately not.
no.
But I want
Yes.
one. When we've moved out of an apartment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand. I have just a quick info for our audience. I love dogs, and I have a new dog. It's a Labradoodle dog. It's a 10-month old
Oh.
puppy. So he looks like a white. He's white beige color. He looks like a big teddy bear with Harry. Yes. Yeah, but back to
I
our
love dogs.
discuss.
I could spend
Yes.
a whole session talking about dogs.
Yes, but back to our discussion about the first point here.
Mm,
I think one of the reasons why from the beginning the project went fiasco, that project that I was involved in, is just like we lacked that migration strategy from the organization or the project itself from the beginning. So they just told me, Jonah, move this that existing application to the cloud. You're the Azure expert. Do everything. There's no even architect that was assisting me with the analysis and everything. So yeah. So I learned a lot from it, and this is a reason why since that project I've been sharing knowledge. Learning knowledge from Microsoft. Learned myself, certified myself as an Azure certified developer, and I also do public speaking, share a lot about the technologies that would help the cloud migration, web apps, or even Azure functions. And that made me become an MVP, Azure MVP, unexpectedly, and that made me also the reason, one of the biggest reason why I'm writing a book about Azure for beginners and even to those developers or intermediate. So I really look forward that this book will make it to the finish line, because that's my mission. I mean, you don't get paid a lot of money for writing books, but I write book. I'm writing a book as that's my vision and purpose, and I want to help others in their cloud migration journey. And yes, so hopefully it'll
awesome.
be a
A
success.
very worthy and yeah, no, a very worthy and noble cause and reason to go and do that. And best
Yes.
of luck writing it as well, because I know it's not an easy task. It's a lot of effort that goes into kind of putting words on paper and trying to fill so many chapters, right, and put that all down. So thanks
Yes.
for all of the effort. I look forward
Yeah.
to seeing it come out.
Yeah, I have the first two unedited chapters out, and I'm currently writing chapter 5 of it, which is about Azure storage and cloud services. Before that, I was writing about compute and networking, so I look forward for that. And I've been a few of the technical reviewers of my book are friends in the community, so I'm happy. It's like a community work as well.
Good. Oh, good. And again, it comes
Yes.
back to what we said in earlier around this technical community being so supportive and being able to have those opportunities to grow as well, not just on the technical side, but having all these great opportunities to get involved and learn skills outside of technology.
Yes, that's right. So I have a few presentation here to show if it's okay. Can you go ahead? So I have my big
Absolutely.
advice for everyone. Yes. So my big advice for everyone is to don't rush moving and flying up to the cloud. So take your time. Don't rush. Follow the advice that Chris and I talked about. Know your strategy. And one of the things that I advise is this one, Microsoft's Cloud Adoption Framework, where you have to define your strategy, you can plan, get ready, adapt, and then you can govern and manage as well. And then there's also Azure Migrate. That can help you with your migration processes and tools and even assessments. So it's a good tool to have. And also learning resources that we have, as you mentioned, Chris, Microsoft Learn, and some links and guides. So we have a lot of free stuff or guides for organizations and business as well as developers doing the migration.
And just to add something on about Azure Migrate, I think typically it's been very infrastructure as a service focused,
Mhm.
but there have been some, I think, additional pieces added to it around the data side, around the app side as well. So if tuning in and you haven't looked at it in a while, take a look at it,
Mhm.
because there might be
Yes.
some interesting updates there for you.
Yeah, that's right. There is a lot of, it's fascinating. There's a lot of things or options for us now when we want to modernize. There's like serverless, there's like Kata, like containers. And if you're new to cloud, it's confusing. It can be confusing to choose which path to take, and that's the reason why we experts, you as well, Chris, that's in the community, try our best to share from our experience, based on what we've learned as well.
Absolutely. And
Yes.
that's why we have some of these great things like Azure Migrate, the cloud adoption framework as well, to bring those learnings from all those past projects where maybe there were challenges along the way, and helping you learn from the mistakes of others and be better because of that as well. What is it? Falling into the pit of success, I think people say. So absolutely, that's the way to go.
Yes, that's right. And if I was thinking about that migration project, if I had a chance, or if I get like a cloud, I mean a team with me that do the cloud migration hero goals, and continue with that new .NET Core application, I think that project is already in the cloud right now. But who knows? Maybe they will be inspired of this talk and
Nice.
they will choose to move.
Right, exactly. And this is it again, going back to the beginning. There's so many different options and ways that you could migrate. I think ultimately you want to be using some of these great tools like the cloud adoption framework, helping you understand those business objectives, mapping back to the requirements, and then using some of that great tooling like Azure Migrate, etc.,
Mm.
to help you in terms of actually making that transition and jump, and then doing what you do best and doing what you enjoy. If you're tuning into this, probably maybe got some form of development background, and focusing on that then, and doing what you need to do to modernize the application if that's the choice that you go down.
Yes, that's right. And let's see. I think that's all I have here. Let's see. So I have my learning resources, and look at my presentation. It looks like it's not looking good. But if you want to connect, I want to thank you,
Yeah,
everyone.
it's
But
awesome.
if you wanna connect, you can reach me on my email or my website, jonah_anderson.tech, and my Twitter. So you have that.
Perfect. No, awesome. Thank you, Jenna. I have one final question for you, and maybe
Hmm?
it's a mean one. I don't know. Let's see. Um, if you were going through that project again and you
Hmm?
had to do things differently, what do you think you would do differently? It sounds like an interview question. It doesn't mean to, but I'm just curious, based on what we've talked about here, what would maybe be the top three things you would think of?
I think if I were to go back in that company and lead the project again, like revive it, I think I would start with just like what I mentioned. We shared also about cloud adoption framework there, to define
Mhm.
what's the strategy, because that's the very important. A good start is a good start. There's a book that I like. I like reading books, as you notice. There's a book, but one of my favorite books, Stephen Covey. One of his 7 habits of highly effective people, and one of the habits there is begin with the end in mind. So if you begin with your goal to move to the cloud, and this is how it should look, then you are already ready to be there. So I think defining the strategy is the first thing. Prepare the organization for that, and I think I would start by fix. The next one is to fix the technical depth and the mess in the database, because that's very important. Otherwise there will be problems there. And I think it's always, and the third one is continue to start as new with the modern multi-platform, which is a .NET Core, and frameworks that are suitable for both web mobile apps, so we don't have to repeat ourselves doing this for mobile apps, doing this something that's modern, and make use of monitoring tools that we have in the cloud. So there are a lot of opportunities for us. So yeah.
Awesome. Excellent. And I was just looking up because I thought that I had a copy of that book, my bookshelf, but I don't see it, so I
So
think
you
it might
have
be
your
on my
books.
list of
You have
things to get next. Up above,
you're
yeah, yeah.
looking up. You have your books on the roof.
Uh-huh.
Just kidding. Really?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when I'm
That's
just sat, staring up to the ceiling. Not
yeah.
really.
You should take.
There we go.
Yes.
But no,
Yes.
Jonah, awesome session here, and thank you
Yes.
for being so transparent and open and sharing all of your insights, because I know it can be making yourself sometimes a bit vulnerable, showing that, hey,
Mhm.
something maybe didn't go as planned, but actually here's what we learned from it. And that's the important bit
Yes.
is, something happened, but okay, we've learned from that, and here's the bit that we learned. So thank you for
Yes.
sharing, and thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome. And thank you, everyone, for listening to my cloud migration story. I hope that you learned from my fiasco that turned into a great one, great lessons.
Excellent. Thank you, Jonah, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes. Thank you. Bye bye.
There we go, folks. So we've been talking all about migrating old .NET applications to the cloud with Jonah. There's some great insights from past projects and the learnings that happened along the way, some great insights, and knowing what Jonah would do if she had the option to do the same thing again, now knowing some of the things she knows. So you know what to do, folks. If you've liked the episode, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and of course share on with others that who may be interested as well. And you know the deal. As always, we'll be bringing more and more great content. So if there's something else you'd like to see, please let us know in the chat. Please get in touch on social media, and do remember also to check out Jonah's book as well. Go back in the video, you'll find the QR code, and I'm sure we'll put a link into the description as well to make sure that's there. But otherwise, stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you for tuning in. And until next time, bye for now.